Greetings and welcome to Mind the Moment in Everyday Life. Each month, we take a theme and explore how mindfulness can support us in bringing that theme to life in our everyday lives. Now, our theme for March is the hunger habit, which has found us exploring a neuroscience-based approach to healthier eating. I'm your host, John Roberts from Living Well Community, your home for interactive virtual wellness classes and on-demand programming created and curated for you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. I'm thrilled to be joined one more time by your mindfulness guide, Kell Julliard. Welcome, Kell. How are you today?
Thanks, John. Very well. Good to be with all of you.
Now, Kell, last week you suggested we do the following. Whenever we feel the urge to eat, you said, check in with your body, with your feelings, with your thoughts, get a sense of the whole world of physical, mental, and emotional sensations that are happening in that moment. And then ask, is my body actually sending me the message that I'm hungry? Or is my body really telling me that I'm bored or stressed or irritated? And could it be that I'm mistaking those cues for hunger cues? Now, the way I was thinking about this for myself was in terms of poker, where there's this idea of tells, which are unconscious things your opponent might do when they have a really good hand or a really bad hand, a signal to you that's the case, even if you don't know exactly what cards they're holding. Like maybe the eyebrow will twitch when they have a good hand, or maybe they will rub their temples when they have a bad hand. So I've been trying to look for my own body's tells. What do I do when I'm bored? What do I do when I'm stressed? And what does it feel like alternately when I'm actually hungry? Now, folks, we'd love to hear from you as well. What sorts of tics or tells does your body have when you're bored or stressed or irritated that might nudge you towards reaching for food, even if you're not hungry? Now, Kel, here's one of mine I've noticed, especially when I'm finishing up a task and I know I'm not going to like the next task on my list. I end up pacing around the basement where I work, and sometimes pacing all the way up to the kitchen. Though for me, it's often less that I'm reaching for food and more that I'm reaching for coffee, which turns out not to be any less detrimental in terms of messing with my state of equilibrium. Kel, I'm wondering if you have tells of your own that you've noticed.
Well, absolutely. Uh, certainly when I'm bored or anxious, or I just want entertainment, food is a very easy thing to go to, whether my body wants it or not, whether it's going to make me feel good or not. So, yeah. So those are some of mine.
Now, Kel, there was this second thing you suggested last week, which also seemed very intriguing to me. And it had to do with examining the consequences of our eating to really go deep inside the feeling of those consequences. Because as you informed us, if we don't like the consequences of a particular way of eating, then our brain does this thing where it sort of begins to demote that way of eating so that we become less inclined to want to do that in the future. This is a bit of a heady concept. So I want to describe how that went for me, Kel, and you can tell me if I'm doing this right. The thing I'm working on, as I've alluded to, is this habit I have of drinking coffee too late in the afternoon, so that when it's time for me to go to bed, I'm tired, but also restless and a little bit wired. And so instead of ignoring those feelings and tossing and turning until I eventually fell asleep this past week, I tried to hone in on what it felt like to feel that wired feeling. And for me, it turns out it's a very head-based thing. It's kind of like the mind is racing, but with just a bunch of useless chatter, like I'm stuck at the most annoying dinner party ever. But I decided, okay, I'm going to do what I think Kel wants me to do. I'm going to really be at that terrible dinner party in my head. And it actually ended up making me feel kind of angry with myself because I knew I had done this to myself. But the next day, when I was reaching for the coffee at about 4 p.m., I did not pick it up and drink it, but it did feel like something I had to overcome. It wasn't easy. It was a real effort. It felt like I was really fighting against that urge. But does that feel right, Kel? Any advice you'd have for me?
This is awesome, John. That's exactly second gear, which is what we worked with last week. And perhaps this would be a good time to just share my slide about the gears. And then, we can review those and move into third gear. So second gear is really getting curious about the habit loops. where we've got something that triggers us to do something, whether it's eating, drinking coffee, whatever. We do that, and then to really experience the results. And so that's what you were doing, John. You were squarely in second gear, genuinely, deeply feeling those results. And as we said it in the session last week, what happens is that when we deeply experience those results, instead of ignoring them or just eating again to get rid of the bad feeling, when we really experience them, our brains reshuffle the behavior that we're doing in the reward hierarchy so that it drops down. It's no longer as appealing. So now what you were experiencing, you had a diminution in the urge to drink coffee. It wasn't gone, but you were able to ride that through. So you were actually beginning to move into third gear. So it's really important not to shift into third gear before we're ready. So we're ready to shift into third gear when we're really experiencing that we don't like the results of this habit. And then third gear offers us an opportunity to do it differently. And so one of the things you were doing in third gear was remembering how awful it felt the night before. And by remembering that feeling in your body, it's like, no, I really don't. Yes, I want the coffee because there's this immediate reward that is real. It makes us feel better for a little bit. But then the result is so much worse. It's not worth the price that we pay is not worth the reward we're getting. So that's when we're ready to move into third gear. And with third gear, we're surfing our cravings and meeting our needs. So let me stop sharing my slide and talk a little bit about what that means. So genuinely discriminating between our needs and our wants is something that's really important in this model of third gear that Dr. Brewer has created. So we're bored. We want to eat something, but that's a definite want, but is that going to address the boredom more than temporarily? So yeah, the eating is a little bit entertaining. It takes care of the boredom for a while, but then it's back, or the anxiety is back, or the worry is back, the anger is back, whatever it is. So there's an actual need under there that we have an opportunity to address differently. So how we address that, we have to rely on our inner wisdom. So if we're bored, often just by bringing ourselves into the present moment and really tuning into what's the next right thing for me to do right now? What's the boredom about? Or what's the anger or the anxiety or the stress about? Is there something that I can do to genuinely take care of the need that emotion is alerting me to? So that's one part of third gear. Then the other part of third gear, Dr. Brewer uses this image of a child throwing a tantrum. So let's say you've got your toddler or your nephew or your niece with your hand. You're walking by the ice cream stand. It's about dinner time. It's not time for ice cream, but the toddler wants the ice cream and decides to throw a screaming fit. So what happens if you buy the child the ice cream? Of course, you're going to spoil the dinner, but you're rewarding the tantrum. You're actually saying, you have a tantrum. What happens next is you get ice cream. So is the child more likely to have a tantrum if you give them the ice cream? Yes, according to all the Pavlovian learning theory that researchers have been exploring for the last over 100 years. So it's the same thing for us. We want to learn how to surf the tantrums that we throw inside ourselves. And what does that mean? It means being able to be present with the feelings that come up, being able to be there with those feelings, until they play themselves out, because the child will not scream forever. The child can be distracted. You walk on, the child pays attention to other things. Then you're in the restaurant, you get your dinner, the child's eating, they're happy. Same with the feelings of boredom, anger, stress. When we really begin to meet our needs, those feelings can transform. And also, feelings don't last forever. Often they peak and then they go away. So if we can surf them, like a surfer riding a wave into the beach, that wave plays itself out. It's not going to be there forever. So that is the essence, two key principles of third gear. So to sum it up, instead of avoiding our triggers or trying to substitute one behavior for another, we bring in this wedge of awareness between the craving and the eating. We tune into our bodies. What do we really need in this moment? And we learn to surf our feelings instead of just eating to them. What we're doing is we're bringing a wedge of awareness between the craving and eating, or whatever the behavior is that you're working with, the habit that's not serving you, whether it's smoking, binge watching TV, whatever that might be. So by bringing awareness, curiosity, and kindness into what's going on in our lives in that moment, we actually can shift where that behavior falls in the reward hierarchy. And it begins to drop when we really become aware of the unpleasantness of the results of that behavior. This is the checklist that we talked about tuning into what's going on in your body and mind to tell you, do you need to eat or not? So if you're bored or avoiding something, restless, tense, feeling overwhelmed, those are probably not reasons to eat. But maybe difficulty concentrating, being moody, having a headache, you're easily frustrated, those might be signs of hunger. So this is where your inner wisdom and learning to read the signs of hunger in your body, where that body scan that we practiced last week really comes in handy. Obviously, stomach growling, dizzy, lightheaded, stomach empty, those are clear signs of eating. So this checklist that Dr. Brewer has in his book, The Hunger Habit, and also in the Eat Right Now app that he's created online, or that you can use on your smartphone, these tools are explained in much more detail in those resources. So the practice that we're going to do today is called RAIN, and that's an acronym for working with the emotions that we're feeling in any given moment. The emotions that can often drive us to eat or do other habits we don't like, if they're emotions that we don't want to feel. So the RAIN practice helps us be with our emotions in a healthy, curious way, a kind way. And it really is very useful in terms of surfing the feelings and being able to ride them out instead of acting out the habit with them. So take a moment. We'll move into this practice, which will last about 8 or 9 minutes. Take a moment to find a comfortable way of sitting. Check in with your body so that you're relaxed. Your spine is comfortably upright, so you're in a posture that fosters being present and aware. And just let's take a moment to move from the doing mode into being. Just let yourself be, maybe stretch a little bit, take a deep breath, let it out with a sigh, just to really be present with yourself in this moment. There's no need to block thoughts, feelings, sensations. Just let yourself come into the present moment, recognizing you're aware and alive here and now. Now, I'm going to ask you to tune into any mood or emotion or feeling that might be present right now. You might feel calm, or maybe there's an emotion lingering from the morning, or some meeting this afternoon that's you have a feeling about, or maybe something happened recently that you can bring to mind that has a mild or moderate emotion connected with it. Something that's very manageable. But ideally, just tune into what you're feeling right now, whatever mood you're in. And the R of rain is just to recognize that that mood or emotion is present. Yes, there's a mood or feeling that is in my awareness now. And the A of rain is just to accept that. I can't magically make it go away. Here it is. I'm just going to accept in this moment that that feeling or mood, emotion is present. So just let yourself be with whatever that feeling is. And then the I of rain is to bring curiosity to the feeling. How do you know you're feeling this particular mood, this particular emotion? Maybe there are certain impulses of moving away or moving toward, a wanting or an avoiding. Maybe there are certain feelings in your body. Maybe there's a certain quality of your thoughts. A calm sense, a restless sense. Whatever your mood is in this moment, whether you're remembering something that still has an emotion connected with it, or just tuning into what you're feeling right now, get curious about how you know you're feeling the emotion. And that can be different for each one of us. If it helps you to develop a word or brief phrase about what you discover, feel free to do that. It could be tense shoulders. It could be relaxed breathing. It could be calm face. It could be heart beating fast. Whatever is in your experience that tells you you're experiencing this particular emotion or mood, just note that in some way to help yourself register, yes, this is what I'm experiencing that tells me I'm having this emotion in this moment. Now, the N of rain that we're going to work with today is the N of nurturing. And nurturing means we're bringing some kindness to ourselves. We're having this mood, this emotion. We may like the mood, we may dislike the mood, but whatever it is, we're human beings just doing the best we can in this moment. And can we bring some kindness, recognizing that? Just like everybody else in the world, we're limited human beings in a complex world trying to make the best of it. and just wish yourself well. See if you can hold yourself with kindness in this moment, with whatever you're feeling. Now, if your eyes are gently closed, I'm going to recommend that you let them softly open as we begin to end this meditation, coming back to this present moment. If you want to stretch, take a deep breath, look around, again, just to reorient yourself. And before we move on to any questions or comments, I'm going to share my slide again just to review what we did. So we first, and you can do this in the flow of life, it can only take a few seconds, but it can be very beneficial to help you not get swept away by an emotion. First, to recognize that an emotion is present and accept that it's there for now. And then investigate what's going on in the body, not getting into the story, just feeling what's going on in our body and minds that's telling us that we're having this emotion. And then holding ourselves with kindness, with nurturance. And that's the heart of the RAIN practice.
Kell, one thing that I was sort of struck by is when we talk about changing our eating habits, I feel like it has been the case in the history of the 20th century, and that it's about resisting, not, like not eating the thing. But hearing you do the RAIN practice, it's really sounds more about like we're working together with our bodies. We are not trying to resist an urge. We're trying to understand, approach it with some empathy and some compassion, even though it's just ourselves. And it feels like a very important sort of shift.
And wonderfully, one of our participants has put in the chat something that exactly supports what you just said. Mytel is reaching for a small piece of chocolate. Lately, I'll have some fruit first, and if I still want chocolate after that, I'll have one. It actually helps me enjoy it more. And that enjoy it more is the key. It's like you're really experiencing the result when you do that. You enjoy it short term, and then how does it feel long term? You may revise this, you may not. That's the point is you're bringing curiosity and awareness and creativity to what's going on in the moment. And this is really about third gear. John, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you would put the link to Kristen Neff's self-compassion website in the chat, because many of us struggle with being kind to ourselves and understanding even what self-compassion is. And one of our leading researchers, Kristen Neff, has a whole website about self-compassion with guided meditations, resources, links to her book, the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook. I don't get any royalties from this, but many people have found this so useful as a way of bringing this incredibly important skill into their lives.
I'm struck by something that going in all these sessions, this reality that while we are, of course, very complicated creatures, we may not be as complicated as we think. We're learning behaviors in a particular way related to pursuing pleasure or avoiding pain. And then we can unlearn or alter those behaviors using the same mental processes. And it almost feels like it's embracing the simplicity that is the key, which doesn't mean it's easy, but that it is something that we can do. It is not outside of our reach. It's something we can understand and actually execute.
That's right, John. And Dr. Brewer talks about building your enchantment database, which what our participant was talking about in terms of enjoying it more. As we really meet our needs as opposed to just being driven by our wants, we really enjoy life more. It becomes richer, fuller. There's a big win-win here by doing this. And yes, we might have to be present with uncomfortable feelings, but by being present with them, we learn how to care for ourselves through those feelings and not be controlled by them. So my advice for this week and the rest of all of our lives, including me, is when you have the urge to eat or engage in any habit, bring awareness to bear along with kindness and curiosity. Check in with your body and emotions. Are you hungry? Is a habit loop present? How can you best meet your needs in that moment? And I'm going to mention again Dr. Brewer's book, The Hunger Habit, which you could check out of your library if you don't want to buy it, the Eat Right Now app. If you're dealing with anxiety, as sometimes I have been in the past, his Unwinding Anxiety app is awesome. Just go to Unwinding Anxiety, put that into your web browser, and it'll pop right up. So there's a lot of tools out there that can really help us with this stuff.
Kell, I couldn't be more grateful for your guidance all this month. I can't wait until we can do this again. Just thank you so much for everything.
My pleasure, John. So good to be with you.
Final word before we go from the late journalist and provocateur Christopher Hitchens, who wrote, quote, "Owners of dogs will have noticed that if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they will think you are God, whereas owners of cats are compelled to realize that if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they draw the conclusion that they are gods," end quote. And so as we go forth, may we take up and relate to the food we prepare, to the food that we prepare to eat, and to the food that we eat, perhaps not as though we are worthy of worship exactly, but as though we are worthy of love, happiness, worthy of a relationship with ourselves and our bodies and our food that honors that. I sincerely hope to see everyone here again soon. And until then, please go forth and be excellent to each other.